Hello everyone and welcome along to What the Ruck Happened, this series where we take a look back at the previous day's action from the Rugby World Cup, and today we have a look back at day number 12. 3 matches took place on this day at the Rugby World Cup. We had two matches from Pool B, big matches as well, and the overall look of this pool as to who will take each qualifying spot into the next round. And then as the big one that finished off the day from Pool A, the pool of death, the pool from hell as it has been called. England and Australia will finish off today's little look back at the action from the Rugby World Cup. Now, this is my opinions in a piece here. If you guys disagree or agree, have other thoughts you'd like to view on the video here, leave your thoughts in the comments as well, as per usual, as we always do. And of course, I always read all your comments, so let me know what you guys think as well about these matches. So, 3 games in store for us. We're going to have a look through them, starting off firstly Samoa up against Japan from Pool B, first match of day 12. Second game was South Africa up against Scotland, also from Pool B, and at the end of that we should see really who is in the front running to take those 2 qualifying spots out of Pool B. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, it was England, the hosts, up against the Wallabies. What a match that was. What a match that was. We will cover that one last. Obviously, the last match to take place, the marquee game of the day number 12 from the Rugby World Cup. So, straight into the action. Match number 1, Japan and Samoa. This game had a lot riding on it, as did the second match, because Pool B really was taking shape here. Samoa needed to win this one to really stay in the running to get in those top 2 spots, and they were in a bit of a 3-way run here with their opponents today, Japan, and of course Scotland as well. There was going to be 2, 3 and 4 in some kind of order, and the winner of this match versus Samoa and Japan would have really, got an upper hand here to at least get third, and that's what they all want, that qualifying spot for 2019. An amazing stat here about Japan is that they haven't won, or they hadn't before 2015, won a World Cup match since 1991. Amazing. 1991 was their last Rugby World Cup win, and then they come here to England and they beat the Springboks. What a massive occasion that was, and now they're looking to go one better, beat Samoa as well, get 2 wins, and possibly look to be the first Japanese side ever to get into the quarter-finals of the Rugby World Cup. Could they do it? Well, it all comes down to this, and instantly they were on the attack, and it was just 5 minutes in before fullback Goromaru was over in the left-hand corner, but it did get called back for a forward pass after looking at it again from the TMO. That was a horrendous call, absolutely horrible call. I thought that pass, I couldn't tell which pass they were looking at because they all looked pretty legit to me. I'm presuming it was the short pass. It was the second to last pass before Goromaru went over in the corner. I think they were all good. They were definitely all going backwards out of the hand, and they did travel backwards as well. Don't know how we got that decision straight away, but it was called back, and they did have advantage despite missing out on the try. Japan instead opting for the 3 points to get their scoreboard underway. Goromaru, the one doing the goal kicking once again, took an easy 3 right out in front to put Japan up 3-0 over Samoa. So that was a good start for the Japanese. I'm sure the try would have really been what they were after, but what was about to happen next, well, would put that try to absolute bed, because the unthinkable happened for Samoa. If they thought that start was bad, things were about to get a lot worse. 10 minutes later, in the 15th minute, it was a yellow card to Levave. How on earth do they get away with this sort of thing? I mean, Levave, just an absolute dreadful tackle. It was late. There was no arms in it whatsoever, and Faifele Levave had to go. An absolute disgusting tackle, just so late as well, and so malicious in the way he hit that Japanese player. It was fully deserved yellow card, and probably one of the most deserved yellow cards I've seen in the World Cup so far, because we've seen a few. We've seen quite a few, and don't even go any further, because there is about to be another one. Just 3 minutes further on in the 18th minute, it was Talofo who got sent off with another yellow card. A kick up downfield from Samoa, up in the air. Fullback went up for Goromaru. He was just absolutely wiped out from the chaser from Samoa. Took him in the air, almost one leg but not the other. Didn't fall too awkwardly. I don't think the tackle was that bad the way he fell. Could have been a lot worse, but I think that is the main point of it. There's a reason it's illegal to tackle players in the air, and that is, what could possibly happen when the man hits the ground from that height as well, after being hit in a tackle. I think he got lucky. Nothing really bad looked at that, but I think it was just what he did, the massive hit in the air, and that was just bad enough as it was. Another deserved yellow card for Samoa, and before you knew it, they were down to 13 men. And this was always going to be a bad sign for Samoa, and if they're going to do any well out of this, it had to be something really special from the Samoans, but it got even worse. 23 minutes into the match in Japan, a massive try given by the referee, a penalty try, scrum pressure, 5 minutes out. Samoa couldn't handle it. Of course, 2 men in the bin as well, trying to defend a scrum right on your own line. It's extremely difficult to try and make that look, not like you're trying to destroy the scrum. It's really hard to defend. Samoa on the back foot already, men down. It was just not going their way. Penalty try was gifted to Samoa, and they got another 5 points from that. They were up 10-0 just after the halfway point of the first half, and well, it was all bad news for the Samoans. We were almost hitting the halfway point, and the game had kind of evened out a bit. Samoa were getting back into the play. They had their men back from the bin as well, but the Japanese were just being gifted easy possessions, easy territory as well from the mistakes that the Samoans were making. They were dropping balls. They were giving away countless penalties at the breakdown, countless penalties around the field, making horrific mistakes. Nothing was going their way. And then right on the stroke of halftime, Yamada just made everything even worse. And even what more could you want as a Japanese side, and even what more could you not want for Samoa, and that is to concede right on half-time. Yamada, what a try it was as well. Not much happening for him. Went out wide, one-on-one with Tuilangi, a man you'd expect to, put the big hit on his opposite number, but Yamada, well, he used the brains over brawn for this one. A beautiful little step around. Tuilangi rushed out to make the hit, knew he was one-on-one, and he got made to look a fool. A beautiful little shimmy step spin, whatever you want to call it, and he was around. A massive big dive for the line. Oh, the pitchers, the media was soaking up that shot of seeing Yamada diving for the line, no one in his way, just going easily into the corner, no question of the grounding, no question of the sideline. Yamada went in, a fantastic try, and, Tuilangi should have done better on that instance. He's a great attacker, but his defence, especially there, was found very much wanting by the Samoan winger. The two sides went to half-time after that. It was the Japanese leading 20-0. 20-0. What a massive lead for them to have at the halftime break. They've had it all their way. Mistakes from Samoa, the yellow cards as well, the good fortuitous tries, the penalty try. Everything was coming up rosy for the Brave Blossoms, and they were looking very good from that first half of rugby. There was a lot of interesting stats from that first half as well. It was all Japan as well. They had made twice as many runs, half the amount of tackles, half the amount of mistakes, and of course, the yellow cards a massive factor when a team is down to 13 men. The possession and territory, 68 and 73 respectively, going to the Japanese. That is a massive amount to have on your side at halftime, and a big lead, 20 points, looks certainly to be enough for the side to go and win this match convincingly by full time. But Samoa are a team that you can never really completely discount. They have that ability, that flair, that cutting edge that they can score tries from any given circumstance, and that is what they eventually did 63 minutes into the match when Paul Perez got on the end of a nice backline play and showed some good skills. Probably one of the best players from the Samoan team from this match, Perez. And backline play, he was on the end of it. He had a little work to do still at that point, but some silky smooth skills, a little step, a little dodge his way through, and he scored a fantastic try with Japanese players hanging off his would-be tackles behind him. He was very elusive there. Probably the best play we've seen from a Samoan all match long. He was very hard to stop, very hard to put away, and he scored a great try for Samoa. But at that point, far too little, far too late. The lead was way over 20 points by now, and Japan were just chipping away before and after that try, taking penalties that they were given. And let's be fair, they were gifted penalties left, right and centre. Goromaru was just chipping them over. Samoa were giving away penalties in the rucks, high tackles. They were getting in fights as well, trying to pick tussles up against Fumiaki Tanaka, the smallest man in the World Cup. He doesn't pick a fight. He just gets under people's skin, and that's what he was doing. He was really rattling the Samoans, and they were just giving away penalty after penalty, chance after chance for the Japanese to run away with the match. In the end, the final bit of salt to the wound of Samoa was dealt out by the referee, and that was another yellow card. This time was Filipolo, the second rower, who was given the third yellow card of the match on the 77th minute. What can you say? The game was done by that point, and to do something silly like he did, a breakdown just started, halfback or scrum half coming to the breakdown, and he just dives over the top of it, over the ball, taking out the scrum half at the same time. Just cynical stuff from Paulo, and you'd expect, a man who's been around for a good amount of years as well, to know not to do something so silly like that, giving away the penalty in a kickable position as well. And then, of course, the yellow card. There was no complaints because it would just look so bad. And the fact that there was only about 3 players on the ground in that ruck just made it look so much worse when he just flails over the top of it like a fish out of water and just makes an absolute mess of the situation for Samoa. That finished it off, really. That was the really last decent act of the match. The yellow card. The game went out to a finish 26 points to 5. Japan thrashing Samoa. And what can you say more about this but a fantastic display from Japan, but absolutely abysmal from Samoa. Goromaru, the Japanese fullback, man of the match for his play. He picked up 16 points from the game, all off the boot, but he was at this point of the game, following this match, the highest point scorer of the World Cup. Now, who would have put any money on that to see the Japanese fullback as one of the top point scorers of the competition? That's almost unheard of. And their final match, of course, against the USA, which is very much possible that they could win that with a bonus point as well. Samoa will be so disappointed. Their discipline was atrocious. They gave 3 yellow cards away and 16 penalties as well. You just can't do that. You can't do that against good opposition. You can't do that against equal opposition. I think it's fair to say that Japan has shown they are equal opposition to a lot of those second or third tier sides in the rugby world. What more can you say about Japan but their passion, commitment, but their coaching? Massive. It just shows so well how much and how well they are coached by Eddie Jones and his crew. They have really come to the party this year at this World Cup, and I really can't wait to see them in action in Super Rugby next year. So full time was 26 points to 5. Samoa, their World Cup is pretty much over. They went to 4th on the ladder. 1 win, 2 losses, just 4 points. Japan now with 2 wins, 1 loss on 8. But it is the Scots who are up in action next, who are on 10 from 2 wins from their first 2 matches. But they face South Africa in match 2, which we're going to have a look at right now. And this would be the 25th match of the Rugby World Cup, again from Pool B. South Africa, who were 3rd in the pool before this game, up against Scotland, who were 1st in Pool B. A big match here. Another upset for Scotland would really tip the apple cart right over and absolutely put Pool B into disarray, with Japan riding high after that win over Samoa. They play the only team to not get a win, USA last. What could happen here if Scotland could put on the massive upset as well, just like Japan did as well? It was a great atmosphere of this match. It was fantastic. Group of fans, we've seen them everywhere, but this one, St. James Park in Newcastle, a big stadium, good stadium. You got a feel for their football side at the moment, or the last couple of years even, but still a good crowd turned up for this match to see South Africa up against Scotland. Almost 51,000 people, a massive crowd to see this game. And it was not very long into the match before we saw the first try of the game going to Scott Burger. A long period of pressure, a short charge at the line. That's all it took for Burger to trundle over for the opening try. And straight away, South Africa looked very much in control of the game. They were all over the Scots. The Scots really didn't have a chance to settle into their game, and the forward pack of South Africa were just over them and dominating them right from the outset, which I think something South Africa have struggled to do in this World Cup so far. They haven't dominated teams right from the outset. They've been very slow to build. Japan took toll of that, obviously, in the opening game, but even in their second match, South Africa, they still struggled and took time to really get their mojo going. Scotland, though, in their support, were putting in massive hits against the South Africans. Their defence, despite conceding so early so quickly, was still pretty strong, and the crowd was massive in support both ways. It was hard to really gauge who had the biggest support when there was massive cheers as Scotland would go forward, and then massive cheer as South Africa would turn the ball over and come back the other way. Great atmosphere of the match, and well, it didn't look like early on it was going to really be the matchup that many had hoped it would be. South Africa really were in charge, and they were in complete control of the forwards, where are the Springboks, as you'd expect. That's what you do expect from South Africa as well. Pollard was going for the kicks as well. They opened up a 10-point lead pretty early on. Laidlaw coming to the action for Scotland. He grabbed some points as well from the penalty. Both sides going for the points on offer, and a 13-3 was the scoreline as we made our way closer to half-time. Then the unthinkable happened once again. We'd already seen 3 yellow cards in the last match, but the TMO poking his nose into the game where it wasn't really, well, no, it wasn't asked for at all. He'd come into the match, said to the referee, I've seen something here, I want to take a look at it. Well, take a look at it with me, because hold my hand, because I can't do it myself. So they have a look at this call that he made against du Plessis. It was a fair call, but I just feel that the way that it happens isn't quite right. Just the TMO to just barge on into the match and dish out a yellow card. It's almost like he's the puppeteer up in the stands, pulling the strings as to where the match is going to go. It just irks me a bit, the way that sort of stuff plays out. It was a fair call, but just the way it happens is what really gets me the most, and that put South Africa down to 14 men, and that really opened the door for Scotland. They were just behind by 10 points and very much in a chance if they could score before the break, they could get themselves in this game and get some momentum heading into the second half of this match. But it wasn't to happen, as a big line-out drive from the Springboks. They seemed to play better after du Plessis went off the field as well. But a line-out drive, JP Peterson, the man that South Africans, well, they love to hate, but they hate to love at the moment, as he charges over another try. Anyone that put a thought into it that Peterson would be such a prolific try scorer in this World Cup would just be amazing. The line-out drive, it's a part of South African rugby that we're used to seeing. It's their strength. They used it when they're under the pump, Really, they were down to 14 men. Pressure was on. They had a chance. They go back to what they know and what they do so well. Peterson hits a hole beautifully. Even though they're down to 14 men, straight through he goes. He's been such a good finisher for the Springboks in this World Cup, despite the fact that many think he was lucky to get in the team. I don't think many would drop him, given the way he has played for the Springboks so far. So into half-time we win. It was South Africa leading this one very convincingly, 20 points to 3 at the break. Yellow card as well. Du Plessis will be back just after the half-time break, but boy oh boy, a man down. I would have thought that game would have gone into the break, at 13-8 or 13-10. I thought Scotland really might have come back and taken that chance to get back in the match. Second half come back in, and Scotland opened up the second half scoring with an early penalty just before Scotland got back to their 15 men. So that is all they got out of that 10 minutes with 14 men on the field. The Scots, just that 3 points, which will utterly disappoint them considering they conceded the try as well. Scotland got a massive chance not long after that, an intercept. Tommy Seymour puts on the finish. 8 minutes after the break, a beautiful intercept from Duncan Ware, a man who has been very much underestimated in his impact for the Scottish team. Not the first choice. He come on and made a massive impact in this match. Firstly, for this intercept, they nearly overcooked it as well, did the Scots, and blew the chance. But Tommy Seymour is the ultimate finisher for Scotland, and that put them right back in the match. There was 20 points to 13 with that try. Scotland looked good. They made a lot of changes. Their front row, completely new props to their front row. The tails were up for Scotland, and they looked like they might charge back into that game with a confidence. And, they started getting that swagger, that they were back in the game as well. They started getting that confidence, that ability, believing in themselves. They look definitely improved up scoring that try, but South Africa is South Africa, and when they're at their top, they know how to put teams back down, and that's exactly what they did. They got Henry Pollard to nail a drop goal. Now that is what we expect from Scotland. A team is up, you just chip them down, put them back where they deserve to be. Then it went bad to worse for the Scots as well. Yellow card to the captain and scrum half, Greg Laidlaw, going to the bin, tackle without the ball, massive call, a shocking tackle, but ultimately once again killed the match. Another yellow card, the second for this match, and the 5th in 2 games. Absolutely unbelievable to have so many yellow cards at this stage of the tournament. Now the question was, can Scotland do what South Africa did before half-time and gain the ascendancy and score some points while they had a man in the bin? Well, they just about did. A big break through the middle, called all the way back for a forward pass. It was another massive chance. Then they did it again, not long later. A chip over the top from Scotland, just about creating another chance, though they did have the advantage at that time. It was a great opportunity, just not quite getting the execution on hand, but when you got the advantage, you take the risk. They eventually took the 3, which put it out to 23-16. South Africa's lead was just 7 points after that penalty for Scotland. But South Africa know how to play the goal-kicking game, and Henry Pollard replied instantly, adding 3 of his own, making it 26-16. The 10-point buffer was reinstated. Then the Springboks had a massive chance to put this game to bed, but once again the final pass blew over the top of the winger and into touch it went. The penalties, though, were still going the South Africans' way. Scotland were trying to slow the game down to their speed as much as possible. The high pace of the game was suiting the South Africans more at this point. Pollard, though, continued to do what he does, and his team does so well. Control the match, control the tempo, and draw penalties out of their opponent. 29-16, Pollard added another 3, and it seemed like Scotland were running out of ideas. Then things once again went bad for Scotland. Stuart Hogg went down with an injury. He had to make his way off, and that was a massive loss because he was one of the best players in the Scottish team. He was making breaks, dedicating tacklers and creating opportunities wide for his outside men. That's a massive blow if Scotland don't have him for their future matches as well. JP Peterson got a bit of luck later on, a tip tackle that I thought surely would be our 3rd yellow card for our 2nd consecutive match. But no, he was led away with it, which I thought was extremely inconsistent. Given what we've seen yellow cards from previous matches, he got away with it and really only just got a don't do that again from the referee, which was absolutely blew my mind that could happen. I thought, well, this could be on here. Scotland could get a man up once again and they could really try and put the pressure on, but it didn't happen, and South Africa really did add to their pressure after that. Brian Habana scored a fantastic try right at the end, 72nd minute. They were dominating for that final 10 minutes, and Habana put the game completely to bed, putting the score up to 34-16. It was game over, and we see nothing further from Scotland as the game just drilled out by South Africa, who showed well and truly that they know they are back and they know what they need to do. It was an ominous display almost by South Africa, who, everyone thought that maybe these sides like Scotland, Samoa, after what we've seen from Japan, had a chance and had the chance to upset the Springboks, but I think those thoughts are well and truly gone. Match number 1 and round 1 for all these big teams was the one chance that the little sides really got to pull off the upsets. I think despite that late yellow card that wasn't given to JP Peterson, I think the ref had a decent match from this game, which is something I don't often say, but it's generally around most parts of the game. He was pretty fair, was pretty even to both teams, which is something that you can't really say to most of these matches. De Jager got man of the match for South Africa, which I don't know how much of a massive impact he got. Part of the big forward pack effort as well, and a number of players in that pack could have picked up that award, but the second rower has really built in some good form through the Rugby Championship and now into the World Cup. South Africa, a big win, 34-16 over Scotland, and that did turn the table on its head. South Africa went to the top, 11 points for them, and Scotland suffered their first loss. So it is South Africa 11, Scotland 10, Japan 8, Samoa 4, USA 0. Pool B, pretty much all but decided here. You think South Africa just need to win their final match, as do Scotland, and they have secured their passage through to the next round. But there was one match still to go for day 12, and that was coming out of Pool A. It was the big one, the one everyone had been waiting for, following the big win from Wales over England. It was England versus Australia. So much riding on this game, especially for England, because lose this one and their World Cup is effectively over. What bigger things could be riding on it than leaving the World Cup that you host in the pool stage? That was almost an unthinkable thing to happen from England. It was, the game of their lives, and they had to get the result. Straight off the whistle, there was a massive mistake from Mike Brown, possibly England's best player in the opening rounds, and straight off the whistle, the pressure was on him, and Australia had a massive chance to open up their account almost instantly off the whistle from a Mike Brown mistake. A massive chance. Folau was running riot right from the start. In the end, it was Australia who opened up their account with a penalty that was resulted by a long period of possession. As soon as the mistake started to come from England, Australia were ready to pounce. They were using the maul that they've used so much this World Cup. That's a strength that they've really identified with having Pocock at 8, and it's something they use very early on to gain the dominance over the English pack. Rob Horne went off injured not long after that, and that looked a very bad injury as well. His arm looked like it was just hanging by a thread. It did not look good for Rob Horne, but they brought Curly Beale on which was interesting as to how they were going to manoeuvre their backline following that. Would it be Beale to fullback, full out of the wing, or would they put Kurandrani out one and then put Beale into inside centre, outside centre, mixing it up with Guitar? But I think in the end, Beale and Folau did swap around between the wing and fullback quite often for the Wallabies, but it was one man and one man alone who pretty much put this match firmly in control of his team, and that was Bernard Foley. Well, his form in the build-up to this Rugby World Cup was atrocious, and there was massive questions asked to whether he was good enough to lead this Wallaby side in the number 10 jumper. Well, those questions surely have been answered by just one match. I'm sure Australia would have loved to have won this match more than just about any, apart from possibly a final. But when it comes to group play, beating England at Twickenham to knock them out of the World Cup would have been priority number one. And if Foley only has one good match from here on in, that game against England will be one he will look back on fondly with. It was a quick snipe from the back of the ruck as well, which got some width on it. Foley was the man on support, and he was in for the try, number 1 for Bernard Foley, and points going to the Wallabies, the first try of the match, and it was 10 points to 3. Australia leading after 20-odd minutes. That was a big play. Bernard Foley getting that first try for the Wallabies. Australia's real plan was to gain the dominance in the forward pack and in the front row, in the big man up front. The battle at the scrum was huge, and Australia dominated that from start to finish. England's scrum really had no answers. Both sides made a good number of mistakes though, but it was the Wallabies who controlled the forwards, which is what many experts did predict was going to happen. Australia would assert their dominance there, and from that would control the match. And with Bernard Foley playing like he was as well, it made things look very easy for the Australians. A set play from the line out resulted in the second try of the match. Once again, Bernard Foley, set try, easy finish. Had to go up to the TMO to just decide whether that one actually had to be awarded, but no question about it whatsoever. Try for Foley, 17-3 at the halftime break. Australia dominating, 2 tries, penalty goals, all to Bernard Foley. He was leading England single-handedly for Australia. There was no one else who was having the impact. The forwards collectively were demolishing the English side, but I think in the backline, Foley, he was absolutely in control. England were probably putting themselves back a step as well. They weren't having their best match, but the way that the 8 and the 10 played was just simply, enough to control a match. And when you got players in the Wallabies backline, the likes of Giteau, Folau as well outside there, who know how to break a line. Kurandrani is always safe and consistent. It looked like an easy canter for the Wallabies, but it wasn't always plain sailing. Into the second half, and the Wallabies continue where they left off, dominating the scrum, bowling through the English and getting themselves penalties, which Bernard Foley was having no problems converting. 20 points to 3, another penalty on the board for Australia. England did, however, get a good chance later on. They exerted a big amount of pressure. 10 minutes they were dominating in the Australian half. Penalty after penalty after penalty. Now the pressure was going the other way. And finally it did tell. Anthony Watson, creating a great chance out wide. Had a huge amount of work to do. Had a step, had a go, had a drive. Took about 2 defenders with him all the way to the line and planted the ball down over for the English first try of the match. The momentum was shifting firmly following that 10 minutes of long pressure, finally telling for England, and they were right back in the match. At about the hour mark, they had a great opportunity, and they looked like they could find their way into the lead if they could play like they did for that last 10-15 minutes. The Wallabies made some changes, and one notable one was bringing on Nick Phipps for Guinea. Now, Nick Phipps has had some shockers in his time, and I think this was another one to add to the list. He was having a dreadful time throwing the ball all over the place. We've seen some horrible passes, some horrible runs. His ball retention was dreadful, and his distribution was not up to standard at all. I think Phibbs is horribly out of form, and they're going to have to really rely on Guinea and Foley to do the hard work for the big games to come up as well. The scoreline just after the hour mark was 20 points to 13. England had worked their way back in and were within a try of equalising this match. Wigglesworth come on the other side for England at scrum half, and I think he completely was dominating Phibbs, and that was a big part of the English comeback, was the play that Wigglesworth had on Nick Phibbs and was changing the match based on that long period just before the hour mark. On 50 to 60, they just had the pressure, scored the try consistently. They were on top for that period, England, and they were looking like they could score another try and make this a real close one right to the end. But that was put to bed from the TMO. There was two players who could have got sent off here. In the end, it was Owen Farrell who did get the sent off, but Burgess put a high shot on the ball carrier, who was running behind a decoy runner who got absolutely spear tackled by Owen Farrell. A great tackle if he had the ball. It was a dreadful piece of defence from England. One player with the ball got taken high. He got away with that, Burgess, with the one player taking the man out without the ball. Farrell did get the yellow card, and I thought, well, that's it. That is game over for the English. That is World Cup over for England. And that is exactly what happened. Penalty went to Australia. Foley converted yet another one. 23-13. Another scrum. Another penalty. 26-13. England were going hell for leather. They were throwing everything they had at the Wallabies, but it just did not come to enough as the Wallabies defence held on nicely right to the bitter end, eventually causing a counter-attack, going all the way for Matt Gitto to score a try out wide. Numbers game, out on the width, player down in the back line. Gitto slides in for the try that really blew this match out. 33-13 following that try from Gitto. First player, apart from Foley, to score any points, and it took right to the very end as well. Eventually, that was the final score. 33-13, dominating play from Australia. England were out of the World Cup. England are gone. The hosts are gone. They cannot make the top two. How huge is this? I've had a lot of you guys coming to me on Twitter saying, what do I think about England not making it out of the pool? And I think it is huge. The first host to never make it out of the pool. Blame the fixtures, blame the group pooling as much as you like, but England should be a team that can beat Wales, that can beat Australia. They showed none of that, especially against the Wallabies, and based on that, there was a lot of talk coming out of the English camp, but there was no action at all. They were completely outplayed by Australia. They were outpassioned by Wales, who were, let's be fair, Wales struggled to put 15 players out on the field for that match, and yet they still had the heart and determination to beat England. Now that is massive, and that was the downfall. Losing to Wales, now this against Australia, has just been the snowball effect building up, and now they still have to play Uruguay. Who wants to put $5 on Uruguay to get within a few points of England? Unbelievable to see the hosts go. I think it's amazing, and from my perspective in New Zealand, where I think for the All Blacks, who ultimately could meet one of these two sides in the knockout stages, who's the biggest threat to the All Blacks here, or to anyone who will meet these sides? Like, I presume it will be South Africa and the runner-up in Pool B, who will meet up against the teams from Pool A. So I think, South Africa, who will they want to meet? Is England at home a bigger threat than the Wallabies? Like, the Wallabies are dangerous anywhere they go. England, if there's threat at home, they were two very similar prospects to come up against. But all in all, in the end, Australia hammering the English. A massive win, a massive game, a massive result for the Rugby World Cup. I hope this does not affect the support that the English have given this tournament as well. I hope they continue to keep the passion high, the attendance is high as well, and the support for all the other teams right up there. And I hope the English go out and support another team. Go support Wales, go support Ireland, Scotland, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, anyone you like for that matter. Go support the minnows, the underdogs. Just get out there and enjoy having the Rugby World Cup in your home country. That is me for day number 12. Another lengthy discussion on what we've seen over the last day of number 12. Plenty of action. Oh, well, this last game was just action enough, wasn't it? Australia knocking out the hosts. England are gone, and all the jokes are coming their way as well for the English. Players offering to buy them ladders so they can get out of their pool. But in the end, the better team has pulled out the victory. Australia getting the win. England are gone. Other results going to South Africa and the mighty team from Japan. My time is done and dusted. As always, leave your comments below as to what you think, and I'll see you again, hopefully tomorrow, for a review of the next day's matches. We have a couple coming in from Argentina and Tonga from Pool C, and of course Ireland up against Italy from Pool D. That is the last two matches we have for a couple of days before we see more action later on in the week. But for now, thank you for tuning in and watching. Leave your thoughts below, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, thank you also for watching, and take care.